All right, welcome. So this video is how to preserve life force energy. So a lot of us may know that our energy is being attacked, right? Spiritually, our energy is being attacked. Why? Because human beings have a very powerful energy signature, right? We come to this planet, we come to this reality with a very high energy signature. And the reason you may not understand what I'm saying is because you look around and a lot of people, they don't seem to be very high energy, high vibrational. They don't seem to be very enlightened or aware that they even contain this power. And that's because over their lifetime, this power, this energy has been slowly drained, right? We experience the slow bleed effect throughout our lifetime from the moment we're born to the minute or same minute, second that we die. There are entities or demons attacking our energy field, trying to strip our most valuable resources, which are our spiritual energies. You can talk about the subtle energies. You could talk about the life force or the prana. You can talk about raw sexual energy, and even just our conscious energy, our nervous energy, right? These are all different forms or states of energy that exist within us that allow us to survive, live, and thrive in this world. These are also the sources of our creative potential, right? All of this energy that we contain, this energetic signature we come onto this planet with, that is the blueprint for our manifestations throughout our lifetime. That is the blueprint for us to create within this world. And so, of course, anybody, let's say the devil, for example, if he didn't want us to manifest or create something in God's image within this world, because the devil or Satan is obviously, biblically, his intention, his goal is to suppress God's spark, right? God's people, which are the humans, human beings. His goal is to suppress them. So obviously a process or a task within that would be to strip the very energy by which we manifest God's creation, by which we create within this world. So obviously our life force energy is very valuable. It is the energy by which we are able to create, we are able to live our best lives and thrive, right? A lot of us are feeling drained. A lot of us are feeling stuck. A lot of us are feeling stagnant. And this is just a lack of or stagnancy of our life force energy. So what exactly is life force energy and why is it so important? The main thing to think about is nervous energy. So our nervous system runs on electrical signals. These electrical signals are made up of energy. This energy is our life force. When we breathe, when we inhale oxygen, on a metaphysical level, we are also inhaling electrical energy. We are inhaling that life force energy, and then it gets circulated through the nervous system. So that is how our human vessel operates, is through this nervous energy. Now, there are other layers to life force energy as well, including the sexual energy. The sexual energy is the source of our physical energy, right? It is the source of our spiritual energy. But sexual energy in and of itself is the base form, right? It is the unawakened form of this energy. And sexual energy can be transmuted into subtle energy, prana. That energy can then be used for manifestation of our goals, right? Creation within this world. That is our creative potential, is our sexual energy. It also boosts our ability to grow and evolve and experience any sort of growth or progression in any given field. It is the source of our ability to learn. When we are breaking down, which is what happens when we exercise or when we learn something new, we are breaking down either muscle tissue or we are breaking down old neural pathways, old belief systems. When we break these down, we need a source of energy, right? We need a basic energy that is able to fill the place of, either the muscle fiber or the neurons. This is what sexual energy does, is it basically fills the place of something that is missing. So once we go through this process of breaking down, we need to rebuild. And so we need resources to rebuild. And that's what the sexual energy is. It is a resource that our body then can use in order to recreate the neurons, the muscle fibers, and rebuild. Obviously, nutrients goes into this as well. We need to be intaking food and the right kind of food in order to build muscle. Our brain is also built on certain nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. But without this sexual energy, the sexual source of our life force energy, we have no ability to actually utilize any of those nutrients. So life force energy is the basis to everything in this world, everything in reality, everything in existence, but mainly our human experience. It is the source of our life. It is the source of our energy, our thoughts, our actions, right? Everything starts from and stems from one source, and that is what our life force energy is. So how is our energy actually being drained on a constant basis? This is something that a lot of times we don't even realize, but it is happening, and we have to be able to acknowledge the fact that it's happening if we want to prevent it moving forward. So on the spiritual level, there are entities attaching themselves to us as human beings that are feeding off of our energy. This is because these entities are obviously demonic. They do not have a physical vessel. They do not have the grace of God. They do not have the gift of life. And so to survive, they have to feed off of ours. Now, don't let this scare you, obviously, because the idea of something that we can't physically see having this much power over us or attacking us in any sense is a scary thought. But the reality is we as human beings have the authority in the spiritual realm because we are essentially 1, 2, or 3 echelons below God, whereas these demonic entities are many, many, many more echelons below us. So the only way that Satan or his demons, or you want to just call them negative spiritual entities if you don't believe in the Bible, but these negative spiritual entities, well, their goal, their intention is to suppress humanity because we are so powerful. And the way that they do this is not by attacking us directly, right? They don't have the spiritual authority to directly attack us. They don't have the spiritual authority to take from us. So what they do is they convince us to give them permission to do so. They convince us through media, through programming, through implanting thoughts into our minds. They influence us into giving them permission to take this energy. And that is the only way that they can thrive. That is the only way that they are able to access our energy and take from us. So what we have to do is learn how to basically say no, but in a spiritual sense. And so what that means is blocking out thoughts of negativity, of hate towards others. I can attest to this, right? On the road, driving can definitely get on your nerves a lot of the time, but instead of hating people, instead of being angry at people, you want to just relax and flow. Navigate the situation as best you can. Obviously, a lot of drivers are not the best, but when you're on the road, you're responsible for your life and your vehicle, and that's all you have to focus on. So instead of allowing the negative thoughts coming in of this guy's such a bad driver, I wish he would get out of my way, just focus on yourself and focus on your driving, your ability. And this can go across any example, right? In your business, you may have the inkling to become cynical towards the business model because it's so difficult, you're struggling, you're not seeing progress, whatever. You may have the temptation to become cynical. Don't allow these negative thoughts to come into your mind. Another way that we do this is by simply not listening to all of the programming, right? You have to have trust and faith in God, whatever spiritual orientation you are, right? All of them believe in a God. So having a direct connection with your God, whatever that may be, however that may look, having a direct connection with God, and then trusting in full the guidance of God. And that is how we overcome the fear that actually is the initiative for us to begin giving into these spiritual entities trying to take our energy. It's fear. Fear is the initial factor that then drives us towards being willing to give this energy in a way. And so what does this actually look like, giving energy? One example of this is sexual energy. So whenever we are giving into lust, whenever we do give into lust, we are allowing the demon of lust, or these negative entities who feed off of our sexual energy, we are allowing them to take it. We are allowing them to remove it from us. And so we can't give in to lust. Same thing with gluttony. When we eat too much, we are damaging our body. And obviously these parasites inside of our bodies, which look very oddly familiar to demons, these parasites feed off of the extra food, whereas we as humans don't need to eat as much as we may think. But these parasites want to make us believe and crave that we need more food than we actually do so that they can eat, so that they can survive. And another thing is just overall negativity, right? Negativity is a drain on our energy. And again, that is how they are feeding off of us, is through this negativity. So how do we actually stop this, right? How do we stop ourselves from having this life force energy that we need in order to accomplish our goals, right? Live by and work towards our purpose in life, right? Even just to have a spiritual connection with God, or having a connection with ourselves, feeling complete and whole within ourselves. This life force energy is essential for all of these things. So how do we actually prevent these leaks? So the first thing is sexual energy and lust. You have to understand that sexual energy and lust is the most valuable and most potent energy that these demons want to have access to, right? That these entities want to take from us. Because, I mean, you look at the Epstein files and you see they're all doing these demonic child sacrifice rituals, and a lot of it is deeply sexual. That is because the sexual energy, no matter which way you manifest or which way you transmute it, has a lot of power, right? So you can pervert it and you can transmute it negatively, which creates negative energy that these elites are using to have control over the rest of the world. But this is dead energy. However, it contains a lot of power behind it because of the source of it, which was pure sexual energy. That's why they target children, is because children's energy is pure and untapped, right? And so it's been unconverted in any way, and then they can then use it for whatever they want. But we as humans contain this energy within us. It's just that certain people and demons, once they've gone too far over the edge, they lose access to their own spiritual light. They lose access to their own divine gifts, and so they have to take it from others. But we contain it as well. So the sexual energy is the most valuable energy that we contain as human beings, hence why it is the most targeted energy by these demonic entities. So how do we actually prevent the leak of lust? And that is very simple. We cannot be masturbating. We cannot be looking at porn. We cannot be having free sex, right? We have to view sex as something that is sacred. We have to hold sex within the proper marriage, the proper example of a marriage, and the structure of a marriage, rather. And this doesn't mean, I don't necessarily believe in no sex until marriage in a typical modern marriage sense, because biblically, sex itself is marriage, right? So once you do begin having sex with somebody, spiritually, you two are already married. So the point here is to choose your partners very wisely and very intentionally. Don't just have sex with anybody you're semi-attracted to. Don't be giving into pornography, the desire for pornography. Don't allow lust to enter your mind. Don't allow it to hold that attention in your mind, right? So everybody has thoughts. Everybody has lustful thoughts. Don't let it stay in your mind. Don't let it start to root itself into your mind, because once it gets stuck, then it is very difficult to deal with. And learning to meditate so that you have the ability to remove thoughts when you notice they come in. So if you have lustful thoughts coming in, you know how to navigate that and actually remove those thoughts, not get caught up in them. Versus if you don't meditate, it's very difficult to break out of the thought loops because they are very strong, especially when it comes to lust. Lust is a very strong thought loop once it does start to take hold. And the next thing is realizing that when you do give into lust, how you reset, right? So one thing is, if you are Christian or if you believe in God in general, you want to pray, you want to seek forgiveness from God, and you want to reconnect, right? Because that severs the connection between you and God. And so the moment you reconnect, these demons, these entities stop having power over you. Whereas when you first give in to lust, let's say you are tapped in, right? You've been clean, you've been healthy, you've been living life in alignment with God's purpose for you, and you're connected. And then all of a sudden you give in to lust. Well, before, these entities didn't have much power over you. But the moment you give in, you sever your connection to God and make yourself a potential victim, or a potential target for these entities because they now have the ability to embed themselves into your mind. Whereas once you reconnect with God, that ability to embed themselves goes away and they have to basically start over. Next thing is worrying about the future or other people's judgments, right? When we worry, how can you not view that as a drain of your energy? Worrying is just constant energy drain. There's nothing you can do about the situation. There's nothing you can actively do to solve the problem or prevent the problem or prevent the situation. Same thing with judgments from other people. You can't do anything about how other people judge you. The only person whose judgment matters is obviously God. So if it is anybody else, any human being, their judgments do not matter. So you cannot focus on or worry about what that means for you, because it's just going to be a constant drain on your energy. There's nothing you can actively do to solve that problem. There's no action you can take to solve the problem. So worry itself is just going to create more stress, more strain, and that itself is the energy drain. And this creates a leakage of energy, of mental energy, when you're constantly thinking about, oh, what does this person think about me? Oh, that guy's such an asshole. Oh, what if this goes wrong in the future? What if this goes wrong in the future? And it's a constant drain on your energy. And by the time you have time to sit down and focus on what matters to you, all of your energy is gone and you don't even know why. The next thing here is burnout, right? And burnout for a lot of people isn't something you can just prevent, because a lot of people don't expect burnout. It just hits at a certain point. But the main energy leakage here, the main leak that a lot of people contain is straining for work, right? So straining as an alternative to effort. A lot of people don't want to put in real effort. A lot of people don't want to focus their attention, focus their energy, or they simply don't know how. And so they kind of supplement that with strain. And strain is very different from real, intentional, and conscious effort. So this strain over time does lead to burnout. But what it's doing is when you are working, when you're putting an effort with intention, you are charging your own energy field. However, when you strain, you are actually draining and stripping your energy field. So the more you strain, the more you strip this energy, the more your nervous system starts to overwork itself, and then it requires more effort to get it active the next time. And a lot of other factors that lead into what we eventually do call burnout, which burnout is the nervous system is so fried that it requires too much energy to activate it. More energy to activate it than we actually have access to in the moment, and that's what we call burnout. And this burnout basically leaves us feeling like a vegetable, and in this moment and in this state, we are susceptible and we are weak to oncoming spiritual attacks. The next thing is diet and exercise. So obviously, if we aren't eating correctly and if we are not exercising, we will experience energy leaks. This is because eating the wrong foods will require our body to work harder than if we are eating the right foods. If we eat steak, eggs, fruit, a little bit of honey, right? We eat healthy grains, healthy carbohydrates. We keep our nutrient and mineral intake high. From these natural foods that I just gave examples of, our body can actually process, take the full nutrients from, and utilize, whereas there are no negatives, right? There are no negative ingredients joining the party. So we are able to take the nutrients we need, get rid of the excess or the waste product of that meal, and we move on happy and a little bit more energized than we were before, because we've now recharged and remineralized and given nutrients back to the body. But when we eat the wrong foods, let's say we go to McDonald's, right? Let's say even we get a steak and mashed potatoes from a restaurant. The reality is the steak is being cooked in seed oils. So that is one extra ingredient beyond just the steak. And obviously we are going to cook the steak in oil regardless, but we can use tallow or ghee, which is healthy, or we can use seed oils, which is not. And then when we go ahead and consume these seed oils, well, we get the steak, of course. We get all of the meat, all of the nutrients from the meat, but we're also getting the seed oils. The seed oils cause inflammation in our guts. They cause all sorts of adverse health problems. And then what happens is our body actually has to utilize more energy recovering from the damage that those seed oils did than it gained from the meal in the first place. And then this becomes another energy leakage and another block for us, because If we are always eating wrong, then we will never have enough energy to actually do what we need to do. And in that feeling, in that state where we don't have enough energy, we're going to seek to eat. We're going to seek to consume. And then so that creates a loop that is working against us. And the best way to break this loop is to eat healthy so that you have enough energy to do what you need to do, so that you no longer crave consuming and eating more than you actually need to. And exercising as well, making sure you are utilizing any extra energy left over or any stagnant nervous energy, making sure you get that energy moving and active. That'll just help to create blockages for you and for your energy, making it more difficult for that energy to be drained or taken. So holding trauma or anger. So this is the last leak that we will try to prevent here, at least the last one that I mentioned, but there are many other smaller ones. Holding trauma or anger. When you hold in a trauma or when you hold in anger, you are holding this negativity, which is giving these entities permission to pick at you utilizing this anger or utilizing this trauma. So when you hold in this negativity, when you're holding in this anger, it grows, it only expands, it becomes greater. And as a result, you're actually putting a lot of your energy towards this negative experience or this negative emotion. So what that means is you're taking your own energy and you're putting it towards something negative, which then makes it available to and able to be accessed by these demonic entities. And that is why we feel so drained or empty when we are holding trauma. That is why we feel so irritated when we cannot let go of something we're angry about. It is because the more we hold this anger, the more of our energy is being targeted, right? As well as it is damaging to the body, to the nervous system, to the mind, when we do hold this anger, when we do hold any sort of trauma that we've picked up over the years. And everybody has some type of trauma. Everybody gets angry at times, but the difference is whether or not we learn to deal with and process these things, or if we hold them in and try to avoid them, or try to get some type of revenge, or to lash back out over this anger or over this trauma. Seeking revenge is not actually going to help you. Let's say you are abused in some way. Seeking revenge is not going to help you. Obviously, if it's a sexual abuse thing, like this can be something that sticks with you. It can be something that really fucks with your life. But seeking revenge is never going to actually help you to overcome the trauma. Rather, seeking forgiveness and learning to process this trauma and let it go is the thing that's going to help you. Right? I have to talk to my girlfriend about this a lot, right? She has a lot of trauma associated with her past, and I tell her, she asks, why should I forgive somebody if they genuinely wronged me? And the reason you forgive is not for the person. You forgive for your sake. You forgive for your ability, or for the sake of your ability to actually heal from the situation. So these are methods to channel your energy properly. Obviously, we want to prevent leakages. We want to prevent entities draining our energy or taking and stealing our energy, or even other people stealing our energy. But how do we actually channel the energy we do have? So if we build up a mass store of energy, we stop leaking this energy, we need to put it somewhere. If we hold it within, it's going to become chaotic. It needs to go somewhere. So how do we properly channel this energy? Another thing is when we are channeling our energy properly, it becomes more difficult for it to be stolen, for it to be taken, for it to be targeted. So the first method for channeling your energy is purpose. So purpose is the main thing that we have this energy for in the first place. We are given life. We are given this experience, this human experience, for a given purpose. So when we find and then align with that purpose, that is going to be the main channel by which we utilize this energy, the main channel by which we create within. And so this purpose looks different for every single person, but every single person's energy signature is specifically designed for said purpose. So you want to identify your purpose, you want to identify what it is you actually want to accomplish in life, and then you want to align yourself with it. Not only will this be a channel for your energy, but once you align yourself with your purpose, as I said before, your energetic signature is specifically designed for this purpose. So when you align specifically and fully with that purpose, you yourself feel the most you that you possibly could. You can't feel fully yourself unless you're 100% aligned with this given purpose. And you may think you're becoming your best self, but if that best self is not aligned with your purpose in life, then it isn't really going to result in you feeling complete. This is why a lot of people can make a lot of money, but not feel happy, because they made the money doing something that wasn't aligned with their purpose. Or the business was aligned with their purpose, not the money. And then once they got the money, they stopped the business, right? One of those two things. But either way, you will feel the most fulfilled, you will feel the most yourself, and you will feel the most complete and stable when you are aligned with your given purpose. Now, the next thing is exercise. Exercise is obviously, I think, essential for everybody. So exercise is going to be a good way for you to rid yourself of excess or stagnant energy in the body. It's going to be a way for you to process that energy. It is also going to be a way for you to train your body to be most effective at utilizing this energy. So at the same time, being fit, not only does the exercise itself help you to alleviate excess energy, but when you are fit, when you are in shape, you have a better ability to channel your energies than you would if you were out of shape. The last thing I have is personal growth. So you have your purpose, you train on the side. What you do with the leftover energy, what you do with your leftover time is not to fall into sin, fall into temptation, because then you go back to draining energy. You can commit yourself to personal growth. So this is learning. This is self-development, right? Self-improvement. That's what self-improvement is personal growth, right? So you identify areas of improvement in your life and you work towards improving those areas. And this is a good way to channel your energy because this energy naturally wants to evolve. It wants to grow. It wants to expand, right? That is what the sexual energy is. It is the evolutionary energy that drives humanity towards growth. So when we utilize it for personal growth, let's say we start reading more books, let's say we start studying more, we start doing more self-reflection, all of these things will help to get us closer to achieving our purpose, yes, but also becoming a more whole, more complete human being. And again, it's just another really good channel for this energy because it was designed to be utilized by you to help you grow, to help you become your best self, and to achieve your purpose, right? Not designed to be taken by these demonic entities so they can feed on your life force and so that they can access something that was never granted to them. So that is all I have for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like and go ahead and comment down below any value you may have taken from the video or even just a summary of the video. I always appreciate being able to see what you guys gained from watching these videos and watching this content. But that is all I have. And if you want to check out my self-improvement program, you want to work with me directly one-on-one, you can go ahead and click the first or second link in the description, which will take you to my Instagram. And over there, you can just send me a DM really quick and we can talk about my one-on-one programs or my current community being developed. So I hope you guys did enjoy. That is all for me, and I'm out of here. Peace.